The next guest is going to be Paul. So, Paul, if you want to come up, I think you've got some slides here. We met Paul through the LFE community. We get introduced to all sorts of wonderful people. And we met Paul recently, and we had a little away day with Chris and a few others. And I mean, I've had a couple of chats with Paul, and he's got lots to say about positive psychology and how to use kindness in the workplace, and a lot of experience of working in the NHS in many different roles. But I was really struck by his ability to tell stories, and he's got a lot of stories. So I think I won't do any more introduction than that, because I'll let you say it for yourself, Paul. Your slides here.
Thanks, Adrian. Morning, guys. Can we have a little wave? Hi. They're a lovely lot, aren't they?
Yeah. I can't see anything. I've got to the age where I have to wear glasses. Bear with.
So how I came to be here was James Timpson's on Twitter. And this is the kind of guy he is. His account's open, so anybody can direct message him. So he posted something, and I did a reply. Within 20 minutes, he replied back. And that led to a few knock-on events, meeting Janet and going to Timpson's house. And then I met James, and he said, "You must meet Adrian." He said, "This guy is just an amazing character. You've got to meet Adrian, because he's all about kindness and everything." So, well, thank you, guys. Adrian, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to come and see you lovely team today. So I'm with NHS England in a service improvement role with the emergency care team, paramedic by trade, and I spend most of my life talking about kindness. And that actually got me my job with the national team, formerly Director of Ops, and through that kind of route. And by deploying some of the technologies we're going to share with you guys today, we help teams to deal with some of the trickiest things that they were facing within their careers. So I've considered myself, and it's a working title, and I'd appreciate some feedback as we go through the day, really, because I really don't know about this, but I call myself a kindness coach, and we've formed a kindness network across the NHS for anybody that's interested in this technology. So the technology we're going to talk to you about draws on 3 areas of research. It's the research relating to the science of kindness, the academic research of kindness, the academic research of positive psychology as opposed to clinical psychology, and the academic research of something I didn't discover for many, many years, and I'm still cross about it. But did anybody realise there's the study of human excellence called NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming? I'll take a show of hands. Has anybody heard of Neuro-Linguistic Programming? I'd never heard of it. And it's the psychological study of human excellence. Why aren't we taught this in school? Why is it just the Olympic team, fast jet pilots, astronauts? So we pulled in some of this stuff. So, see which way the clicker's going to go. So that's the kind of premise for the research that we're going to share with you today. And I love experiencing cultures from outside of the public sector. And just before pandemic, I was listening to Jeremy Vine on his BBC Radio 2 show, and he'd got a workforce specialist from the London School of Economics. And Jeremy asked this workforce specialist, which sector was he most worried about in terms of workforce? And he said the NHS. And Jeremy said, "You must be joking. Isn't the NHS meant to be the biggest employer in Europe? One of the biggest brands in the world? What's your basis for being most concerned about the NHS?" And he said, "Jeremy, if the NHS recruited every single school leaver for 5 years, it still couldn't fill its vacancy rate." Which means they've got to attract people from other sectors and other countries. It's culture. So on my quest to soak up organisational culture, which is how I got to meet the lovely Janet and James and Timpsons and spend time with them, I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and have a little chat to Tesla and just see how Tesla do things. So off I trots to Tesla, And I meet this lovely young lady. She's an amazing general manager at Tesla in Birmingham, and one of her team who was with her. And I spent the day with them, and I was saying to them, I said to this guy, I said, how did you come to be here? And why do you stay? And do you know what he said to me? He said, the mission got me, and the people kept me. He'd been with Tesla for 7 years. Tesla were paying for him to do a PhD in sustainable motor vehicle solutions. And his role was to go around the whole of the Tesla business, working out how they can do things better. So that just reaffirmed for me my absolute belief that our journey to being the best at what we do and providing the quality of service we want for ourselves and our family begins with creating a systemically kind, positive culture where all colleagues can flourish. There's a theme here, guys, isn't there? It's something about human flourishing, isn't there? That's atypical in the NHS or public sector, but the evidence is clear. And one of the reasons I loved kind of being associated with this kind of initiative is I'd love to create the evidence to say by implementing and replicating this kind of technology in public services, we can replicate the results that they're getting in aerospace. Facebook, Tesla. So I used to believe that kindness was a lovely thing to be on the end of, experience and deliver, wasn't it? Kindness is a nice thing to do. What I learned through the research is that's absolutely incorrect. Because the research shows us that kindness is considered by the academics as a superpower. Because what they've proven, without doubt, is when we make a conscious decision to be kind, we affect changes in our neurology, chemically. So many colleagues in the room will be aware that these lovely chemicals, the oxytocin, serotonins, they're autonomically released in our neurology, not under our direct control, cause us to feel and respond in different ways, physically, don't they? It's a chemical chain reaction in our brain. And this is triggered by making a conscious decision to be kind. We trigger a chemical chain reaction in our brain. It's quite a phenomenal thing. But the chain reaction is quite remarkable in that it makes us feel different in the way that it impacts us on our ability to see the world and how we fit in the world and how we show up in the world. It's quite a remarkable thing, and it starts with self-esteem. And I really love self-esteem because I think everything comes back to self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves, how we show up and how we feel we can tackle the challenges and fulfill our ambitions. It all comes down to self-esteem as a first principle. And this is what this kind of chemical chain reaction relates to. And the act of kindness is quite a remarkable thing to observe because it's a greatest contagion we could ever imagine. I love the kind of Starbucks kind of example here, and I don't know if anybody's ever come across this, but these people are obsessed with customer service. So this is a drive-through, this is a case study of a drive-through crew. And the guy pulls up at the window and he wants to do so. He's been on a course, he's been on a positive psychology course, and he's got some homework. And his homework is he's got to do one random act of kindness a day. So he says to the person taking his money for his coffee, he said, "Can I pay for the car behind?" And they said, "Yeah, we'll do that. That's paying forward. We do it all the time." "Brilliant. I'll pay for the car behind." Do you know that lasted for 2.5 hours before it stopped? And the estimated contact spread was 150 cars. £3.45 cup of coffee. So that's how contagious kindness is. Now, the problem we've got with this is the reverse is true. The reverse is true. So if you happen to be a mood hoover, I'm not going to go for a show of hands, Emma, don't worry. And about 15 years ago, there was a lovely little kind of recollection from positive psychologists, and they actually discovered this correlation and this kind of notion that kindness makes you happy, but actually, when you're happy, you're more likely to be kind. And it's correlated because the two are absolutely inseparably linked. It's quite a remarkable thing. And clinicians in the room will be mindful that these lovely oxytocin serotonins are actually chemical dilutants for what we call the stress hormones that are released chemically in our brains, which lead to our heart attacks and strokes and such like. Science of pragmatic positivity is something we love as well, because way back in the 60s, this is really weird and over-the-top American personal development speaker called Zig Ziglar. Google him, he's a real treat. But even though he's a right comedian, he did some really groundbreaking research, and he showed that positive thinking will let you do everything better than negative thinking will. And there's a real psychology that underpins that, because when you make a conscious decision to be pragmatically positive, right, you trigger another chemical chain reaction in your brain, which triggers an open mindset. You're looking for solutions. You're arming yourself with practical problem-solving skills. You're into the art of the possible. When you think, oh no, it's all over, doom and gloom, I'm just going to go into protection mode, chemically that shuts your neurology down. It polarizes the problem you're facing, so it actually appears to be 10 times bigger and worse than it actually is. Your practical problem-solving skills has gone. So there's a really, really lovely bit of psychology around that. The other thing it does is affects this thing called the belief success cycle, which is a kind of link to the self-esteem thing. So whatever you believe you can or cannot do affects your potential to achieve your potential or achieve that resolution to an issue or be your best self, whatever it is, which then drives how you feel. We feel our thinking, guys, don't we? We feel our thinking. And it's our thoughts then that determine what we do, how our behaviours display, our actions we take. And what do our actions deliver? The results we get in life. And then we kind of analyse the results we get in life, and that then fuels our thinking. In fact, the psychologists say one of the things that makes us really remarkable as human beings is we can think about what we're thinking about when we're thinking about it. Think about that. We can think about what we think about when we're thinking about it. We have got 3 levels of consciousness that can happen at the same time. We're getting to like Matrix territory now. Who do you talk to the most, guys? Just have some call-outs here. Who do you talk to the most? Yourself? Who said yourself? Emma, have you got Ocky Health on speed dial? We normally get things like my partner, my dog. Yeah. Who do we talk to the most, do you think? Actually, does anybody else talk to themselves? Can I take a show of hands? I'm going to be brave on this, Adrian. Oh, my goodness me. We have got problems today, haven't we? Gosh. Do you know something, guys? You're absolutely right. The person we talk to most is ourselves. And there's a really technical scientific name for it. It's called self-talk. But the serious point about self-talk is, from the researchers in positive psychology, it's dangerous. Because by default, it's negative. And not only is it negative by default, it's brutal. And they often say that we talk to ourselves in a way we would never, ever dream of talking to anybody else. So think about that. Because thoughts become things, don't they? Has anybody ever heard this concept? We create our own reality. Show of hands. We create our own reality. I'll take another show of hands. Who believes it? Yeah, it's quite. Do you know what? It's absolutely true. Now, before I became an NLP master practitioner and coach, I was thinking this is just rubbish. But here's how it works from a scientific point of view. We get hit with about 11 million bits of information a second, right? Our neurology gets hit 11 million bits of information every single second. But our conscious thought can only deal with 50 bits of information a second. So how do we know, and this will have you reaching for the paracetamol, how do you know what to think about? Has anybody ever been on that course? It's right next to the fire safety one, isn't it? Mandatory training, you know. Information governance, what to think about. So we've got this filter, and it's a filter. It's called a reticular activating system. It's quite a posh name, isn't it? Reticular activating system. It's called RAS. And the job of the RAS is to get from 11 million bits of information to 50 bits of information, and serve it up to our conscious thing. So, okay, it's a filter. It's part of our brains. It's at the back. It's down here somewhere, right? Okay, we've all got it. We've all got it. It's the RAS. It does a great job. But a bit like self-talk, it's dangerous. How do you think it works out what to serve up to our conscious thought? And by the way, the 50 bits of information that get into our conscious thought, that's your world. That's what this concept refers to. The 50 bits of information a second your neurology serves up to you is your universe. That's what they mean when they say we create our own universe. How does the reticular activating system know what to serve up to you? Any ideas? Yeah? Have we got any psychologists in the room? Old duck. There are. Clinical psychologist. Oh, fantastic front row seat. Oh my gosh. Adrian, you didn't tell me that, did you? Oh. So basically, it looks at what we think about most. And we want to prove it to you. Have you ever been driving down the road and all of a sudden you've ordered a car, you've ordered a replacement vehicle, and you see them everywhere, don't you? Have anybody had that feeling? Yeah. That's because the reticular activating system has identified that. You've been thinking about that quite a bit, and therefore it must be important to you. So every one of those cars, or pair of shoes, or handbag, or outfit, whatever it is, you're going to see it everywhere. Now, they've already been there. They've always been there. It's not that you've just discovered them. It's been allowed into your conscious thinking, right? The dangerous bit is the reticular activating system doesn't make a judgment whether or not that's good, bad, or ugly for you. It doesn't make a decision about does it serve you or not. So, if you're a 2%er, you're upbeat, can-do ability, you want to be your best self, and you're helping others do the same, you're going to get a lot of that. And you're going to get more and more and more and more of it. But if you're frightened, if you're depressed, if you're low in mood, if you're worried about stuff and anxious, guess what's going to happen? Has anybody ever heard the term spiraling down? That's the research behind it. Thoughts become things, guys. So ask yourself, check in with yourself a number of times a day. Where is my brain currently? In the past, in the future, or in the now? In the past, it's probably that's about being unhappy about unhappy things instead of nice things. The future about worrying about things, dangerous things. So you've only actually got now, because the past is gone. You haven't got the future yet, have you? All you have is now. And when you're in the now, ask yourself, do my thoughts serve me? And if they don't, change your thoughts. And here's a little warning sign that we wanted to share with you guys. You need to be aware of your impact, because the way you describe others is the way people see you. Spontaneous trait transference. It happens to us all in a second, in under a second. The way you describe others is the way people see you. And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Nothing. Now, if you're walking around the street, you're at home, at the gym, at work, you're in a supermarket, whatever, you bump into 20 people and you smile, you say hi, you appreciate them, and they go forward and they do the same with 20 people, and they go forward and they do the same with 20 people. Positive psychologists say because of the law of hyperdyadic spread, which actually means your ability to affect the emotional state of people you never meet, the law of hyperdyadic spread means you have given, on average, a 10% emotional uplift to 8,000 people. 8,000 people. Just by meeting 20 people a day. Now, we all meet a lot more than 20 people a day, don't we? But again, it's a bit like the random act of kindness. And please remember the lovely Jin Rohn back in the 60s and 70s, again from a US personal development coach, he did some groundbreaking research which showed, without a shadow of a doubt, we are the average of the 5 people who spend the most time with. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's just science. And I don't know about yourselves, but when I was a kid at high school, my mum and dad used to say to me, stop hanging out with those guys. Right? They're not bad kids, they're just idiots. They won't study. Right? My sisters went and got A levels, I just left and became a motor vehicle mechanic. But no, it's a true thing. It's a true thing. How we make people feel is incredibly important, and how people make us feel is incredibly important. So I want you to think about your phone. Who was the last person to call your mobile phone? And how did they make you feel? Because, has anybody had this feeling? You see somebody's number flash up or name, and you go, oh my gosh, what do they want now? I'll take a show of hands, Emma. Has anybody had that feeling? Anybody had this experience, guys? Yeah, don't be shy. We've all had it, haven't we? So in the break, just have a little look at the last person who called you on your personal mobile phone and just say, how did they make me feel? Neuro-associated conditioning. Never forget it, right? Neuro-associated conditioning. 3 consecutive experiences with a person, and your neurology, your subconscious part of your brain that looks after your heart rate and your breathing, your temperature and all that kind of stuff, will make a judgment about that person, and it's with you for the rest of your days. Neuro-associated conditioning, right? It's incredible. How am I doing for time? Have a run over. 2 minutes? Have I got volume? Has anybody ever seen this? Show of hands? Most haven't. Great, okay. It's 1 minute long. So we're not advocating full fat Coke or anything like that. I just wanted to get the little public health notice in there. But this is Coca-Cola UK Management Training Scheme video. That man, double PhD in positive psychology, he replicated that on 7 Transport for London trains. Coca-Cola UK teach their management graduate training scheme people behaviour breeds behaviour. It's a psychological constant, which means it happens to everybody, without exception, every time you talk to somebody else. One of the little bits of science I'm going to leave you with here is this concept about happiness. And the lovely Janet and everything she does at Timpson's. But this was a real joy to me to learn that there's actually a formula for your happiness. 50% of your happiness, blame your parents and your grandparents. It's DNA. There's nothing you can do, guys, right? 10% of your happiness level comes from life events. I thought it was 90%, but it's not, according to the researchers. 10% of life events, good, bad, or ugly, affect your happiness level by 10% only. The take home on this one, which really staggered me, 40% of your happiness comes from your intentional activities. 40%. Everybody in this room today can increase their happiness level by 40% by what you do, your self-talk, your self-esteem, can-do ability, how you choose, your state of mind. 40%, guys. And the one thing I always leave our leaders with, particularly when we're doing things like management training colleges, management training schemes and things like this with the leadership teams, and trust boards like this one quite a bit. People will always forget what you said and what you did, but they will never, ever, ever forget how you make them feel. If you want to see the true impact of your mark in this world, you look at how you make people feel. They'll never forget it. Thank you so much for your time, guys. I'm sorry for running over.